May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. Intent, control, reaction, contradictions. The evidence will show it was after an invigorating day of making new music that Popper wanted to break her routine and wake up early the next day to make even more music. And so a close dear friend, West Arsene, who had known Popper way back since high school for 33 years, who had traveled all over the world with Popper, to his shock and surprise, discovers Popper in her bedroom, face blue, face down on the floor of her bedroom, lifeless. West Arsene frantically and bitterly calls 911, but Popper is gone. Popper, whose melodies were the soundtrack of memories for the most meaningful moments of the lives of masses, is dead, laying dead on the floor like nothing. Lyman Franks, the lead investigating detective with the Texoma Police Department, looks into Popper's death and finds intent. Popper's body is intentionally placed on the wrong side of the bed, where she never sleeps. A tumbler is intentionally placed in Roger's hand, wiped clean, except for 4 of Popper's fingerprints from 4 fingers, except her pinky finger. Intent. A pill bottle was intentionally placed in Popper's hand and also wiped clean, except for Popper's fingerprints. Intent. Those pills were dramatically scattered across the floor, but none of those pills were found in Popper's system. Intent. Popper had nearly 3 times the levels of barbiturates in her system than a month before. Lyman Franks concluded the defendant intentionally killed Roger. Control. The defendant controlled every aspect of Popper's career. West Arsene noticed the control. Jojo Nielsen noticed the control. And the defendant picked coaches, picked trainers, picked dance instructors for Popper. This shows control. The defendant even picked Roger's doctor and personally gave Roger, a grown man, his medicine. Control. The defendant believes he discovered Popper. The defendant believes he made Popper. Control. And where did the name Popper come from? Where did that name come from? It came from the defendant. The defendant believes Popper is nothing without him, and yet Popper made the defendant into a very rich man. Because of Popper, the defendant had a luxurious Hofsteel cruiser, and Roger's first draft of the will left the defendant nearly $95 million. In fact, the defendant called Popper his golden goose that laid his golden eggs. Jojo Nielsen, who knew Roger from way back from high school and were even from the same neighborhood as Popper, was jealous of Popper's success, but was distraught when Popper died because Popper was Jojo's only hope for fulfilling his own fading dream for a music career. Jojo Nielsen tells the defendant one night that Popper was planning on getting a new manager and completely cutting him out of the will, out of nearly $95 million, leaving the defendant with nothing. West Arsene overhears the heated argument between Nielsen and the defendant, where someone is angrily screaming the word will, and getting a new manager after 33 years and cutting him out of nearly $95 million, the defendant reacts by losing control to having a yelling and screaming match with Mr. Jojo Nielsen. He reacted. The defendant reacted by moving out of Popper's mansion, where he lived for over 10 years. Reacted. The defendant reacted by murdering Popper in cold blood. On February 2nd, 2016, the defendant came over to Popper's mansion, avoiding contact with Arsene, which the defendant does have a habit of doing. The defendant deactivated the alarm and killed Roger with an overdose and left in his Hofsteel, which both Nielsen and Arsene saw, and left a glass with only his and Roger's fingerprints on the outside and residue of the drugs that killed Popper on the inside. When the defendant is questioned by Mr. Lyman Franks, there are contradictions that prove he is guilty. On the date of the death of a close friend for he'd known for over 33 years, the defendant says he was at an industry event, but when questioned for witnesses to his alibi, he says he was home alone. Contradictions. The defendant claimed Popper was taking too many medications, but still made sure Dr. Hendricks came on a regular basis. Contradictions. Initially, the defendant tells Lyman Franks he never gave any medication to Popper, then admits to frequently giving Popper medicine. West Arsene and JoJo Nielsen witnessed this. Contradictions. The defendant initially tells Lyman Franks he did not know about Popper's change in his will, even though there was a will on his desk which Arsene also saw, and West Arsene also overheard the defendant arguing again with Mr. JoJo Nielsen about the will change, then tells Lyman Franks he still did not know about the will. Contradictions will show guilty. Intent, control, reaction, and contradictions. When you focus on the intent, when you focus on the control, when you focus on the reaction, and when you focus on the contradictions, you will see the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Not beyond all doubt, not beyond 100% doubt, but beyond a reasonable doubt.
Thank you, State Attorney Stillman. Defense, you ready for your opening statement?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I proceed?
Yes.
May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. We live in a country that values freedom, land of the free. In this country, we fight for freedom, and we sacrifice for freedom. The highest burden of proof in law is beyond a reasonable doubt, because taking away someone's freedom is everything. That's state's burden. That's the government's burden. But in this case, you will see a woman, Houston Witt, is wrongfully accused of murder, and that there is something so significant, so important, that is missing in this case: evidence. There is not enough evidence. The government can't meet its burden because there are so many reasonable doubts that it can't be ruled out. Can't be ruled out. The evidence will show JoJo Nielsen had motive to kill Popper. Motive. For many years, Nielsen had held a grudge against Popper. In fact, Nielsen believes that Popper made his fortune and fame by stealing a song that he created. Motive. In fact, Nielsen believes so much he was cheated that he actually filed a lawsuit against Popper. Motive. The evidence will show Nielsen had motive to kill Popper, and Nielsen even had motive to frame my client, Houston Witt. Nielsen believes that Mrs. Witt snubbed his daughter, so he had motive to kill Popper. Motive and opportunity. Opportunity. Nielsen was in Popper's home the night before he was found dead. Opportunity. Nielsen knew how to give Popper his medication. You will see Nielsen had the motive and opportunity to kill Popper, and he can't be ruled out. Lyman Frank's investigation can't rule out Nielsen. Can't be ruled out. The evidence will show West Arsene had motive to kill Popper. Lyman Franks found a draft will leaving everything to West Arsene if Popper somehow dies. Motive. Houston Witt was trying to get Popper to rid of Arsene because Houston believed Arsene was a leech that enabled Popper's drug habit. West Arsene had lived off of Popper his entire life and could have lost the only source of income he ever had: Popper. Motive. However, by killing Popper, West Arsene inherits a $95 million estate. Motive and opportunity. Many times, it's only West Arsene and Popper in the mansion together. Opportunity. West Arsene knew how to give Popper his medicine. West Arsene had the motive and opportunity to kill Popper, and he cannot be ruled out. Lyman Frank's investigation can't rule out West Arsene as the killer. Can't be ruled out. The evidence will show Popper could have committed suicide. He was depressed, taking antidepressants, and in a lot of pain every day. His star had faded and he was no longer in the limelight. His new album he had worked on hard was leaked and panned greatly by music critics. Popper could have committed suicide, and Lyman Frank's investigation cannot rule that out. Can't be ruled out. The evidence will show Popper's death could have been a mistaken overdose. Popper was taking a dangerous cocktail of drugs, and yet was only being seen a couple times a month by his doctor, who had his office in his car, her car. Houston Witt is a manager of musical talent. West Arsene was a roadie for most of his life, and JoJo Nielsen has no training in the medical field, but they were all responsible for providing Popper his medicine. Lyman Frank's investigation can't rule out a mistaken overdose as the cause of Popper's death. Lyman Frank's investigation does not prove anything. The state can't prove anything. And this case will show you more than anything, my client, Houston Witt, loved Popper, nurtured him, cheered him through the good times, loved him like a mother, and Houston Witt is not guilty.
Thank you. Thank you, defense. Prosecution, are you ready for your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. We call JoJo Nielsen to the stand. Hello. Please state your name for the court.
My name is JoJo Nielsen.
And how did you know Popper?
We grew up in the same neighborhood back in St. Paul. We grew up together, and that's how I met.
So you knew him before he became famous?
Yes, I did.
And do you know who Houston Witt is?
Yes, he represented Popper, and he was Popper's representative.
Okay, and how did you meet him?
At first, we were playing. I was trying to make it big with Popper, and then I tried to get him to represent me. But after that, he basically just ruled me out.
And what was your and Popper's relationship like?
Well, Popper never did things the old-fashioned way. He was always different. But we were in bands before he was even big, and he was really kind of close to me when we were growing up.
Okay. And you say in your witness statement that Mr. Popper won a talent show with the song Orange Snow. And you claimed Orange Snow was your original song.
Yes.
And how did you confront him about this? Did you confront him or Mr. Witt?
Well, I tried to. I felt like I was robbed. I felt like it was my own writings, and I did confront him. I sued him, but it turns out that I had no evidence. So I just kind of stayed away for a little bit. Stayed low.
Okay, so after you stayed away from Popper, how did you two come back into contact with each other?
Well, he reached for me. He called me out of the nowhere saying that he wanted to give me or help me out because I'm a self-made musician. I'm trying to hit it big, but he told me that he kind of wanted to give me help.
Okay, and how would you describe Mr. Witt and Popper's relationship?
Witt was I was a controlling man over Popper. He was the one who came up with the name of Popper.
And what did you personally think of Witt the first time you met him?
Well, at first I wanted him to represent me because, I wanted to hit it big. But after that, I kind of just didn't like him that much because, he just didn't want to.
Okay, and did he help you in any sort of way?
Well, not really, because he was always trying to make me or put me away from that. Like he would always persuade Roger to get me out of using a studio or doing whatever. He always excluded me out of everything.
And when you introduced Mr. Witt to your daughter, what happened with that?
He told me that he wanted to see her again, but he never called or anything. After that, I ran into him after New Year's, and he basically asked him about it, and he didn't even remember my daughter, which is kind of like, as a father, it's something that kind of like makes me upset about it.
And when you were upset with Mr. Witt that night, did you tell him anything?
I did, because he didn't, first he didn't even remember my own daughter, so I told him about that Popper was getting a new will and that he was changing manager, and I could tell that Houston was fuming.
And so Houston Witt reacted badly to this news.
Yes, he did.
Okay, now moving to the night of the murder. Did you go to the house anytime during that day?
I did. It was around 9. It was around 9 p.m.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 8. It was around 8 because I had scheduled or planned to use the studio, and when basically they were already working on some other stuff, but I already planned it with. And when I got there, I wasn't gonna take no for answer because every time I would be tried to I would be they would tell me not to use the studio. So after that, I went and we worked. I worked with West Arsene on my music.
Okay, and can you describe in more depth what you and Mr. Arsene did that night?
Well, we were basically working for around 45 minutes. We were really making progress, but after that, then West Arsene mentioned something about being hungry. So off goes West to the kitchen, and I kind of thought it might not be like the sharpest knife in there, but I was pretty sure that we were done by the time he left. So I just grabbed my stuff and went to my car.
Okay, and before you left to your car, you didn't see Mr. Popper at all that night?
I did not.
And when you got to your car, what did you do?
Well, I pulled up my phone because just to check if I got any text messages or calls while I was working on the music.
Okay, and did you see anything suspicious while you were sitting in your car?
I did see an orange Hot-Seal pull in the driveway.
Okay, and one last question. It is true that you do have a different vehicle, a Chevrolet?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, no further questions, Your Honor. We pass the witness.
Thank you. Defense, would you like to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor, may I begin?
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen, you said that you were good friends with Popper in the beginning,
Yes.
but you sued him because he stole your song, correct?
Yes.
And despite the grudge, you decided to stick with him?
Well, I don't have to like him. I just, if he's gonna help, if that's my way of helping myself out from becoming something better, well, I could use the opportunity. But it was most.
So you would say that you kind of felt like he kind of owed you this opportunity, correct?
Well, he did steal my song. I feel like it was him trying to make it up to me.
And how would you describe Popper before he died? She died, correct?
He seemed kind of more sluggish, or more like slow, or more kind of like a little bit more, yeah, slow.
And did you ever help with your medication?
Just once. I was never told before that night, but it was with Wester. I was helping with West because he told me to grab ground the 4 or 5 pills, and he said that for me to grind them after he went to go get some water. But it was he came back and he started grinding them, but it was the only time.
And in your statement, you said that you thought that it was a bit too much, correct?
Yes, but I am not well.
No, but that's a yes or no question. You thought it was a lot.
A little bit, yes.
And you said that you planned going over to the studio, correct? Who do you plan with?
Well, I had scheduled with West Arsene after that, after they had finished working with their project.
Okay, and so because of that, you just needed to use the studio so bad that specific night, even though you could have easily have planned another night, correct?
Yes.
And how long did you say you were working in the studio?
Around 45 minutes.
Okay. And after that, after the session, did Arsene go anywhere, or did you guys decide just to end it there?
He said that he felt hungry, so he left. But I was pretty sure that we were done with what we were working that day, so I just went to my car.
Okay. And you said that you saw Witt.
I
Driving
did,
it.
I did see an orange hot seal.
No, but you said that you saw him, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. The opposing counsel is leading the witness.
Overruled.
As I was saying, you did say that you saw him, correct?
I was pretty sure it was he.
No, but I'm saying, right now, you just said that you did.
I
It's
just,
a yes or no question, Ms. Nielsen. Okay, but that's ironic that in your statement, you had said you thought you saw him. So why now all of a sudden the change?
well, it's because, who else would be around there if, Wes and I were already there?
Objection, Your Honor, this is speculation. The witness has no idea what Houston's with time is coming into the house and leaving.
Overruled.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Witness, you may step down. Prosecution, would you like to call your second witness?
Yes, Your Honor. We call Lyman Fritz to stand.
Prosecution?
Could you please state your name for the jury?
My name is Lyman Franks.
And could you tell us where you work?
I work in the Texoma Police Department.
And what is the current position that you hold?
I am the senior corporal of the Texoma Police Department.
And could you inform us a little bit about your educational background, please?
I graduated third in my class and attended numerous classes to, as you say, enhance my professional growth. I even attended the prestigious Scotland Yard just for that.
And could you inform us how many cases you have worked on as a detective?
I am currently on my third case.
And have you had any prior experiences in cases?
Yes, I've been around cases all the time. I've been, I guess you would say, helping other detectives in their cases many times.
And you were working on the day of February 3rd, correct?
Yes, I was.
And so could you tell us what happened on that day?
Sadly, I arrived late to the scene and thus the body had already been removed. But there was a tape outline where the body is, so I believe that does not affect my knowledge of the scene.
And did you find anything of significance in that bedroom?
I did. There was a water tumbler that it looked like it had been wiped clean and placed into his hands. It had every finger but the little finger, so I'm not sure. It just seems kind of suspicious. And there was pills on the floor. There were muscle relaxers, but none of those muscle relaxers were in his system.
So, and did you speak to anyone at the scene?
Yes,
Who did you speak with?
I spoke to Wes Harcine, Jojo Nielsen, and Lisa Wynn.
And
Your Honor, objection. The witness did not speak to Houston Witt at the scene.
Sustained.
And did you investigate into Dr. Hendricks at all?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find?
I found that he had a previous, I wouldn't want to say criminal record, but he was brought to court before. The case was dismissed. So I always thought he had, made some kind of deal with the judge.
And could you inform us what Dr. Hendricks was being tried for?
He was being tried for improper characterization. I want to say characterization, but he wasn't very orderly with his drugs, and he seemed to be carefree with them.
And could you tell us how you ruled out medical negligence?
By speaking to witnesses, I believe that Popper had hope for the future, and he wanted to, I guess you say, expedite his health, because he knew that's where the money came from. He couldn't sing and dance if his health was bad. He had hope for the future.
And so, could you inform me a little bit about the emotional state of Wes Harcine and Jojo Nielsen?
From what I could gather from their witness statements and talking to them, they were very sad to have lost Popper.
And could you inform us why you began to develop suspicions of murder?
As I said before, the water tumbler had been wiped clean, and there's no reason for the muscle relaxers to be there, but not in his system. And he was found on the wrong side of his bed that he usually slept in. Also, that the most prominent part was Houston Witt's numerous contradictions in his witness statement.
So, so you spoke to Houston Witt, correct?
Yes, I did.
Is he in the courtroom with us today?
Yes.
So, in between your witness statements, it's your addendum and your witness statement, you took 6 weeks to speak to him again. Why was
Yes.
that?
Well, I reviewed other witness statements and realized that Houston Witt had made contradictions, and I was also following leads. As you see in JoJo's witness statement, he says that he told Houston Witt about the will, but then Houston Witt said he didn't, so I began developing suspicions.
And did you, in the course of your conversation with him, did you begin to develop probable cause?
Yes.
And so, did you arrest Houston Witt for murder?
Yes, I did.
And based on your training experience, why do you think he committed this murder?
He had motive, he had means, and there's evidence against him. Why else would you contradict yourself that many times in a witness statement also?
We have no further questions here.
He was one of Popper's friends, I believe.
West Racine gave Popper his medication, is that correct?
Yes, Dr. Elaine Hendricks helped him, and
It's a yes or no question.
yes,
And with Popper's will, West Racine would have received Popper's estate, is that correct?
the will was not currently signed, but without the will, because the will was,
Okay, it's a yes or no question.
yes,
Okay. And did you ever suspect that he had motive to kill Popper?
it's possible,
So a yes.
it's possible,
Did you ever suspect that he had the opportunity to kill Popper?
it is possible.
And how did you know that
Objection, Your Honor, that was speculation. The witness would not have any personal knowledge as to that.
Your Honor, this is an expert witness. He would know if he would suspect a person of committing murder.
Overruled.
So, how did you know that he did not kill Popper?
Can you repeat your question, who he is?
Arsene, West Arsene.
Okay. I suppose it is possible, but I overruled him due to Houston Witt's numerous contradictions and Houston Witt's cause.
And continuing on again, you made contact with Jojo Nielsen?
Yes,
Yes. And did you know that Jojo Nielsen had sued Popper for stealing his song?
I am aware of that.
Okay. And Jojo Nielsen was at Popper's home the night before he died?
That is true. He was there for roughly around
Yes or no?
45 minutes. Yes, he was.
And Jojo Nielsen, would you say he did have motive to kill Popper?
It is possible.
Objection, speculation. The witness can't know if that other suspect could have motive or not. He does not know anything about him.
Your Honor, he just said that he had sued Popper, and that would give him motive.
That's also an objection in proper motive and characterization.
Sustained.
Improper characterization.
Sustained.
Okay. So did you suspect that he had motive to kill Popper? Sorry, never mind. Just ignore it. And you had made contact with Dr. Hendricks at the scene, right?
Yes,
Okay. And Popper was being given a mixture of medication?
yes,
Okay. And although he was giving this mixture of medication, there was no medical professionals to administer this medication, correct?
every once or twice a week,
There
Lane
was,
Hendricks would stop by and he would, I suppose you'd say, he looked at the scene. If there's anything going wrong with that, he would know.
okay.
She would.
And the doctor only saw Popper 3 to 4 times a week?
That's true.
But in the times that he wasn't there, there was no medical professionals to administer this medication?
Dr. Lane Hendricks.
Yes or no?
Dr. Lane Hendricks was.
Yes or no?
Yes.
That would be a no.
Wait, what'd you?
My
repeat your
question was that during the time he was not there, during the time that the Dr. Hendricks was not there was no medical professionals.
Yes, there was no medical professionals.
And the investigation revealed that Dr. Hendricks did not keep proper records. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay. So there is no record of how he was treating Popper?
Yes, but there was the drugs that we found in his system that can be a pretty good record.
And where was this doctor's office?
The doctor's office was in her van.
Now, going on to Popper, he had been out of the spotlight for a while, is that correct?
Yes, but due to
Yes
numerous,
or no?
I believe he was making a comeback due to witness statements.
Okay. And he was being treated for chronic pain?
Yes.
And Popper's latest album had been leaked.
Yes.
Did you ever suspect that Popper was depressed?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness could not know about this, not having any personal knowledge due with Popper.
Your Honor, he was taking medication for his depression. He was taking antidepressants as well as medication for his chronic pain. As well as him being an investigator, he would know from other people's statements that whether or not they saw him depressed or not. Were you aware that a suicide note was found in Popper's bedroom?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Dying declaration, the witness cannot know for sure if this is a suicide note or if it was just lyrics to a next song.
Your Honor, the witness had already answered the question.
Overruled.
Okay. So you were aware of this suicide note found in the bedroom? Yes?
As the lawyer previously said,
Yes or no?
it could have been a
Yes
diagnosis.
or no?
I am not qualified to give you a good enough answer for that. I'm sorry.
You just stated in your previous question that you were aware of this.
Yes, lady, but like our
May you please state your name for the court?
My name is Lester Seen.
And did you know Popper?
Yes.
When did you meet him? When did you meet him?
Right after graduating, I stayed in town for a while, just partying, finding myself. And it happened to be that the people I knew were the people he knew. Who knew?
In those 30 years, when you guys knew each other, what types of things did you do?
Well, Popper was a great musician, and he just had a gift for music, so we would go around. He had these gigs, and I was basically his roadie, his first roadie, by the way. I just helped him around, carry his stuff.
And after that, you became his personal assistant, you could say?
Yes, that all happened after I dropped his guitar by accident, but it was his favorite guitar, and he decided maybe I should just go on to different stuff.
And where do you currently live now?
I live in the Orange Grove Mansion.
Which is Popper's estate?
Yes.
And what type of work do you do now?
Right now, I mainly answer his fan mail, letters, anything that has to do with him that's like small work. It doesn't require me carrying heavy objects.
And what was your current relationship like with Popper?
Me and Popper were like we were brothers, not really brothers, but we were that close. He just had a great heart, and he liked helping out people, and I just really admired that from him.
And you do know Dr. Lane Hendricks?
Yes, I do.
And Dr. Lane Hendricks was hired by Houston Witt.
Yes, she was.
And did Dr. Lane Hendricks ever show you how to administer the medication to Popper?
Yes, she did.
And how would you describe the process of that?
Popper can really swallow pills, so I would crush him in mortar and pestle and dissolve them in water. And then give it to him.
Okay, now moving on. Do you know a Houston Witt?
Yes, I do.
And is he in the courtroom right now?
Yes, he is.
How long have you known him?
Maybe 30 years.
And how did you meet him exactly?
One time it was me and Popper, we were at this bar, and we were just getting a couple of drinks, and this old guy just approached us, and he just started going over with Popper and talking to him a lot. Then Popper told me he had given him like a contract, music contract, but it was only for him. It wasn't for the rest of the guys. Like it seemed like he was just focusing on Popper.
And when Popper signed the contract with Houston Witt, where did the name Popper come from?
Houston Witt.
And so Popper's original name is?
Rajay Nelson.
And how would you describe Rajay Nelson's and Houston Witt's relationship?
Houston Witt mainly used Popper for his money. He always tried to make him go on tour, try to like, not force him, but he was very protective of Popper, always watching over him, being very, like, not aggressive, strict about like his regimen. He had teachers for almost everything, like his dancing, choreographers, teach him like better vocals and stuff.
So with Houston Witt choosing all of Popper's coaches and talents, could you say he had a controlling personality?
Yes.
And did he ever give Popper medication?
Yes, he did.
Did the defendant also live with Mr. Popper?
Yes, he did.
When did he stop living with him?
One time, after Rajay Popper decided to change his, like his representative, I forgot what the actual name was called. It really made Houston Witt mad, and he decided to leave the house.
And Mr. Jojo Nielsen, do you know him?
Yes.
What was his relationship like with Popper?
Jojo mainly used like spent time with us because he needed to use Rajay's studio. He wasn't like it didn't seem he liked Popper that much, but he was just there because he needed to use the studio.
And did he ever administer any medication to Popper?
No, I only saw him clean the mortar and pestle once, but he never actually gave him medicine.
And in your statement, you talk about a screaming match that you witnessed between Mr. Jojo Nielsen and Popper, or Houston Witt, is that correct?
Yes.
And what did you hear during the screaming match?
It was a really loud screaming match. It was being very aggressive vocal. I could hear the word will be repeated over and over.
Okay, now moving on to the night of the incident. Were you with Roger that day?
Yes, I was.
And how would you describe his mood?
Rajay seemed very upbeat. He seemed happy because we were working on his music, and we were doing like very good on it. And he seemed very ecstatic. He even told me to wake him up earlier than his usual routine, so I could continue working on it.
So he wanted you to wake him up early the next day, which is unusual for him?
Yes.
Okay, and did you give him his medication that day?
Yes, I did.
And was Jojo Nielsen in the home anytime that day?
Around, was it 6 p.m. that Jojo knocked on the door and he needed to use the studio. I didn't want to let him in, but I decided why not, maybe help him out.
Okay, so what did you two do when Mr. Nielsen arrived?
We worked on the studio for like an hour, maybe.
And after that, did either of you leave?
Yes, I was getting very hungry now after a long hour of working, so I decided to go make myself a sandwich. And Jojo asked me where the restroom was.
And after that, did you notice anything else?
After I came back, I realized that Jojo wasn't there and his guitar was gone, so I guessed he had left the house.
Okay, and after you assumed Mr. Nielsen had left, did you go back to the cabana where you live?
Yes.
And did you see anything else?
Yes, I saw one of the an orange house seal leave through the driveway.
Okay, and is it possible with the form of the driveway it could have been leaving or arriving?
Yes.
And did you see Houston Witt at all that night?
No, I did not.
No, but it's possible he could have arrived?
Yes, it could.
And is that because, as you stated earlier, he has a habit of showing up without notice?
Yes, it does.
And what happened the next morning?
The next morning, like Roger had told me to go wake him up. And when I opened the door to his room, he was on the floor. Just couldn't believe it. He was dead.
And after you found him and after calling the ambulance, did you notify anyone else?
I called Houston Witt.
And how did he react to the news of his golden goose, as he claims, being dead?
He didn't really react much. He just kind of like heard me and didn't really say much. He was like, huh? And hung up.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. We pass the witness.
Your Honor, may I just have a moment to speak to my...
Sure.
Your Honor, may I begin?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Arsene, you said you saw Popper every day,
Yes.
and you knew that Popper was in pain every day.
Yes.
And you also knew that Popper awoke at 1:30 p.m.?
Yes, I usually was the one that woke him up.
And so you would say that in the months leading to his death that he had troubles waking up?
Yes, he did seem a little groggy.
And at times, would you even describe him as restless?
Not really. I mean, Popper always seemed to, like, have his will to live, but he did seem constipated, and I could tell that bothered him.
Right, and you said that you were like his brother, so you would know best, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you lived with Popper as well.
Yes, I lived in a shack. Well, not a shack, a cabana that was a couple of feet outside of the house. Outside the house.
And you worked with Popper for over 30 years?
Yes.
And I guess you could say you knew Whip wanted to get rid of you,
Yes.
correct? And without Popper, would you have a job or a place to stay?
No, Popper really did help me out in my career.
Okay, and can you again describe Popper's and Whit's relationship in your eyes?
Yes. He still was very controlling of Popper. He always told him where to go, try to get him to do things, like always try to have him on
But previously you said that he was protective, making sure that he was doing everything right to get his career in the right path, correct?
But it seemed very obsessive.
But the question is, but you did see him as protective, making sure that Popper had what he needed, correct? Yes or no answer?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you found a lawyer to change Popper's will,
Yes.
and you gained from that new will?
Popper would let me stay in the house at least 5 more years, and I would keep the van.
Yeah, and you found Popper dead, correct?
Yes.
And you were there also at the night?
Mhm.
Alright, and Jojo Nielsen was also in Popper's house the night he died, correct?
Yes, he was.
And you said that Mr. Nielsen just came over and asked if he could use the studio?
Yes.
Okay, but Nielsen in his previous statement said that you two planned these meetings,
Yes.
but
this
you
time-
just said that he just came over and just said,
Yeah,
"Can I
this
come?"
time he decided to just come over.
Okay. And for over an hour, you had no idea where Jojo Nielsen was after you guys were done?
He said he had to use the restroom, so I guess he was probably there.
And Jojo Nielsen drives an orange Hot Seal, correct?
Yes, he does.
And you personally know that Jojo Nielsen had a long-lasting grudge against Popper?
Yes, he did.
Alright. To the point that Nielsen even sued Popper.
Yes.
Okay. And again, going back to the your relationship with Popper, you worked as a roadie for him, right?
Yes, I did.
Like his personal assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked for Popper rising at 12 p.m. each day.
Well, it was not exactly 12 p.m. each day. It was,
It's a yes or no question, sir.
yes.
And when it came to medicine, who distributed him the medication?
Most of the time it was me, but also Houston would help.
Okay. And who trained you guys?
Dr. Lane Hendricks.
Oh, so you're not medically trained.
Well,
It's a yes or no question, sir.
I'm not medically trained.
And you were in Popper's home the night he died, and Jojo Nielsen was also in Popper's home the night he died, but you never saw Houston Witt in Popper's home the night he died.
No, but it is possible.
Yes or no question, sir?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. State of Texoma, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down. Defense, you call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the defense would like to call Dr. Hendricks to the stand.
Catch me
Ask forcefully. Okay.
again. Do examination.
Thank you. So please state your name for the court.
My name is Dr. Lane Hendricks.
Okay. And what is your profession?
I am a trained internist, but since my practice since coming to Texoma has developed to focus on pain management for my patients.
Okay. And how did you come to know Popper?
I met him through his good work, and I began seeing him 14 months before he died.
Okay. So Houston, what was the one who hired you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you paid for your work?
I was.
Okay. And how much were you paid?
15,000.
All right. And what were some of the duties that were expected of you?
I was to control his pain, and I just saw him that he started to struggle during the time I was seeing him, and I just wanted to help him out.
Okay. And throughout the time that you were treating him, how was Popper's mood? How did his mood and demeanor change?
It suddenly changed. He started to have a hard time to stay upbeat, and he wasn't doing good.
Okay. So, in your opinion, his health was decreasing?
It was decreasing.
Okay. And do you think the medication needed to be increased in dosage?
Sorry, can you repeat your
The
question?
medication, do you believe that the dosage needed to be increased?
Yes,
Yes?
medical use.
Okay. And this was necessary for his well-being,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, going back to your form of payment, were you paid in any other way?
Just by Houston Wood.
So, were you given a vehicle?
I was actually.
Okay. And where is your office located?
It is in my vehicle.
And, sorry.
The reason for it is because I have many professional clients like Popper, and I want to get to their places as fast as I can whenever they need me.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense has no further questions.
Okay. Prosecution, would you like to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. May I begin? So, could you specify what you were seeing Popper for?
I was seeing him for his pain because I had noticed that he was struggling to stay upbeat, and he was depressed, he was
So,
anxiety
you were treating him for pain,
for
correct?
pain.
And could you tell us beforehand what happened in Florida? Objection, Your Honor, relevance. This is important information to see in the background of this witness and why they would have been hired to treat Popper in the first place.
Overruled.
So could you tell me about your license in Florida? What happened?
I gave it up.
Could you tell me what the Florida board was going after about?
They didn't tell me.
Your Honor, may I refresh the witness's memory?
Yes.
Right there, highlighted, please. Would you read that sentence?
It says my move to Texoma involved from a dispute with Florida's licensing board regarding my prescription and billing practices.
So Florida was having, so your dispute with Florida was over what exactly?
Exactly what it said.
And you were also tried in Texoma, were you not?
Yes.
And was it over the same thing?
Yes.
And how would you keep track of your patient's medical records?
I would try to keep it in my head or in little notes.
And were these official notes?
They weren't.
So do you have any receipts of any of the treatments you did for any of your patients?
Not right now.
And so you had no documentations of any of the prescriptions or the amounts that you would administer, correct?
Once again, I wrote it in my notes.
But non-official notes,
Not
right?
official.
So did you at one time increase the dosages that you were administering to Popper?
Yes.
But you have no medical tracking of the amount to safely increase the dosage, correct?
Yes.
And so you had a mobile office, is also correct?
Yes.
So you could take better care of your patients?
To get there quickly.
But you lacked keeping track of the paperwork, correct?
Mhm.
So you cared very much about your patients, correct?
I did.
But you didn't keep track of any of the important medical records that would imply for you to treat them?
No.
You administered 3 drugs to Popper, correct? They were amphetamine, opioid, and benzodiazepine, correct?
Yes.
Would you, in your medical field, say that's a dangerous cocktail?
No, these were controlled drugs.
Try to refresh the witness's memory. Line 43. Could you read that to me?
Certainly, a cocktail of these 3 drugs is somewhat dangerous.
So, would you say they were dangerous if you would talk about
Yes, but they were controlled drugs. And I said it in my statement.
But in your statement, you said they were dangerous, correct?
Yes, I did.
So, you had no tracking of the records of these somewhat dangerous drugs, the amounts you were prescribing, yet you still decided to increase Popper's dosage.
Yes.
We have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We pass the witness.
So, you may step down. Would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense would like to call to the stand Crash Derby.
You may approach.
Your Honor, may I begin?
Yes.
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Crash Derby.
And what is your profession, Mr. Derby?
I'm a contributing editor at Mossy Rock magazine, greatest magazine.
Okay.
If you read it,
Sorry, go
I've
ahead.
got a copy outside.
Okay. And do you know Popper? Did you know Popper?
I did, yes. Actually, I've been writing an article on him. I compiled enough information even to write a whole book on him. We've done a lot of meditating together, you know, trying to find the meaning of life, the American dream.
And is that how you met him? Through your work?
Yes, as my work, as a writer.
Okay. And how would you describe Popper?
Popper. Oh, Popper. He was a fantastic musician. And him and Houston, they got along so well. Like a blind person, they could see the teamwork between the two. He was he treasured his work as an artist so much. It was inspirational, you know. He really cared about his music. He was a perfectionist of sorts.
Okay. And so, how would you describe Houston Witt?
Houston, he was great. They say he did this, but I know he didn't. I don't even know why we're here. But Houston, like I said, he created Popper. He got him down dance lessons and singing, and he started his own recording studio for him. He made the superstar, and even though they sometimes argued, they always ended with hugs and apologies. They got along real well.
Okay. So, you would describe Witt and Popper's relationship as caring?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when was the last time you saw Popper?
I saw Popper about 10 days before his death, unfortunately. We were supposed to go meditate on nature grains of sand in the desert, but his mind was troubled like a stormy sea. He couldn't focus on anything. He seemed troubled by the release of his latest album. You see, it had been leaked on his site, Music. Like, who would release a pinnacle achievement of digital music on a site like that? And the two things that he could talk about that day was just the leaking of his album and how much he loved Houston. Compliments. That's all they had for him that day.
Okay. And do you believe that Houston Witt is capable of murder?
Absolutely not. No.
So, he would definitely not be capable of murdering Popper.
Of course not. He was like a father to Popper. He loved him.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Thank you. Kate, would you like to cross-examine?
Oops.
Yes, Your Honor, may I begin? Mr. Derby, you said you've known Houston Witt for more than 2 decades, correct?
Yes.
And you described Houston as having the wit touch with artists. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And as far as your knowledge, do you know if Houston Witt is working with other artists?
No, that's just it. He was quite loyal, Papa.
I wanted a simple
I know,
yes or no.
but I
just wanted a simple yes
And
or no.
that's all
Thank
right,
you,
though.
Mr.
I don't
Avery.
mind. I've got plenty of time. He loved Papa. He was so loyal. Papa was his only artist, and that's what I found so inspirational about him, was his undying
Objection, Your Honor.
loyalty. Hey, she just interrupted me. Hey!
Witness, you will answer the questions directly. Continue, state.
And also, Mr. Derby, in your statement, you described Popper as having undying loyalty, correct? You describe him as having undying loyalty.
Well, I
correct?
just said, didn't I?
I can't do this. Okay, well, moving on, Mr. Derby. Would you, when was the last time you saw Popper?
Well, I just told her.
I want to know again.
You weren't listening?
When was the last
Why
time?
weren't you listening to me? I said 10 days before he died. I'm
I will
sorry.
hold you in contempt of court. Please answer directly.
Alright, I saw him 10 days before he died.
And can you describe what you two did that night, or did that day?
I just said we were meditating on nature grains of sand.
And did Houston Witt appear during any time in your meeting?
Houston. No, not that day, he didn't.
So
That
he,
was on a different day.
So he didn't arrive any time during that day.
No, that was a different day, I believe. Around 9 o'clock. We were at his house though. We weren't meditating that day.
But it was on that same cold January day, into the evening that Mr. Witt
Oh
arrived.
yeah, it was evening. That's what it was.
That's what I thought, Mr. Derby.
Thank you,
Uh-huh. And so when Houston came in, did he do anything unusual?
Houston. Don't. No.
Your Honor, may I refresh the witness?
I don't need no refreshing. Use a Coke.
Will you please read?
Sure, I got it, don't I? It was about 9 p.m. We had just spent most of the day together, breaking bread twice, and enjoying a glass of Pinot Noir. Papa was clearly fatigued, and Houston came in to check on us both and make sure my visit was coming near an end. Houston was followed by West, who said he was using a mortar and a pestle to grind up what looked like these pills. Houston said, "You're not doing it right." But offered no more. West redoubled his efforts with the pills as I was packing my bag.
Thank you,
But I
Mr.
didn't
Derby.
finish the paragraph.
Thank you, Mr. Derby. That's all I need from you. So Houston Witt came in checking on a grown man to see if his meeting was finished.
Of course, you cared about him, didn't he?
But Popper's a grown man. If he wants to stay with you as long as he needs, he can, can't he?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that?
With Popper being a grown man, he can make his own decisions for himself, right?
He was sick.
Answer my question. I don't want to hear what you have to say. But being a grown man, he can make...
No, man, what I want to say, hey, I want to go.
Objection, Your Honor, she's backing my witness.
Exact objection, Your Honor. Attitude.
Okay, moving on, Mr. Derby.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
So, could you say Houston Witt sometimes had a controlling personality over
No.
Popper? So coming to check in on a grown man.
He cared about him, that's not controlling. If a nurse or a doctor comes in to check on you when you're in the hospital, would you say they're controlling your life? They're trying to, they care about you.
But that's different. You're in a hospital.
He
Here,
was
that
sick
is
and he
outside.
was in bed.
Moving on, you said with the medication that Houston yelled at West he was doing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
But Houston offered no more assistance with that?
No, he just filled up the glass.
And so West Arsene scraped the pill powder into the glass and Houston filled up the glass and gave it to Popper,
Yeah.
which would state that Mr. Witt did in fact administer medication to Popper,
No, he filled the glass up with water.
but he still gave the...
But he filled the glass up with water.
Okay, and moving on, you say that Houston Witt and Popper got along so well. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did. It was
But-
fantastic. It was this most cathartic
Mr. Derby,
relationship
please stay on
imaginable.
topic. Mr.
Oh,
Derby.
I am. I'm expanding on it, you see, because I want you to have the most...
Objection, Your Honor, to responsive.
Witness to stick to the questions they're asking.
So, as I asked before, you say they got along so well, Mr. Witt and Mr. Popper?
Yes, I did.
But you only saw Popper and Houston on a couple occasions, correct?
Well, now I've known
On a
Houston
couple
for two.
occasions.
Seen them together. You
Yes,
mean?
seen them together only on a couple
I'm
occasions.
afraid I can't remember that. It's in my statement.
Yes, you have. Anywho, so you have not seen them.
Could I see it in my statement? Please? She's trying to put words in my mouth and she has no proof of it. I'd like my memory refreshed.
Okay. In your statement, you say that Mr. Popper had showed you lyrics to his next song. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Your Honor, I ask that we. I ask to send Exhibit 5 into the records. Showing opposing counsel. No? Okay. And
Can
now.
I see it too?
So these are the lyrics that Popper showed you that he described as lyrics to his next song.
That's right. Would
Yes.
you like me to sing them?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Derby. And for the jury. No further questions, Your Honor. We'll pass the witness.
Thank you.